All right, India versus Australia semi-final. India losing the toss for the 14th time in a row, but that didn't matter because they came out with the real win that was needed. India beating Australia in the semi-final, and it was a great game, back and forth, a lot of cat and mouse being played in the middle. Hell of a game. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, India finally getting the Australian monkey off its back in ICC tournaments. That Travis Head nightmare, the World Cup 2023 nightmare, albeit not entirely gone, but I think it was definitely a turn of the better chapter for Team India, and I think all round performance overall for Team India. But nonetheless, I think it was a cracker of a game and a lot to unpack.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to unpack. And let's start with the Australian innings. So, Australia won the toss, decided to bat first, and they put on a score of 264. And I think there was someone on the pod that said that they would make a 260 plus target, instead of 260 plus target. And that's exactly what happened. It looked like at one point Australia would get to 300 with the way Carey and Smith were batting. There was that partnership, and Carey looked in sublime touch. He looked like he was batting on a different wicket, and Smith was playing that anchor role that we've seen the top players play in this tournament so far. Williamson, Kohli, have all been playing those anchor roles through the innings, and we saw that from Smith today. But great pullback from India because Australia would be kicking themselves for not hitting 300.
Yeah, yeah, no, they had a great start with Travis Head up the front, and as you mentioned, the middle overs definitely were able to really create the pillar for the Australian batting dominance, and India's ability to get those key wickets at those key times was super important. I think Shami played extremely well, some of the spinners as well. I know my slog sweep was a fifer from Kuldeep. Unfortunately, Kuldeep had an off day, and Pandya being a little expensive with the ball. But I think a key there was, India restricting Australia to a sub 300 score because I think anything between a 280, 300 plus could have definitely done the job for Australia. I'm restricting Australia to 264. That, as you mentioned, Carey looked great. That run out by Sherry was super
Yeah,
important, right? I think that saved at least 20 runs right there. And I think just
100%.
those key wickets at those key moments is what really gave India the edge in this game.
Yeah, it just felt like the momentum and the tide was with India's right in Australia's innings. Like even the way Smith got out, it was a full toss. Any other day, Smith is just dispatching that for a four or six, but he got bowled out of a full toss, which is, you'll never see again for a long time, right? And then the carry run out. Runouts are not easy to come, especially with a direct hit, and that's exactly what happened. So it felt like momentum was in India, and it felt like the cricket gods were with India, at least in the Australian innings.
Yeah, no, exactly that. And I think, what really encapsulates the entire Australian innings was Maxwell's innings. He hit a six and right off the next ball, bowled by Axar Patel. And I think that's what it was. Australia was able to get some boundaries here and there, some good runs here and there, but key wickets was a key for Team India. And I think with 264 on the board, I think the match was definitely poised for a finish. And I think at the midterm mark, you couldn't really say where the match was headed. But as you mentioned, slight momentum edge for Team India, just the way they were able to get Australia out in the tail end of their innings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shout out to the Indian bowling attack for pulling it back in the last 15 overs. Everybody chipped in, played their role, and again we saw the advantage of having six bowlers, six out and out bowlers. Like you said, Hardik got slapped around a little bit today, so he only bowled 5.5 overs, and he got the key wicket at the end to close out the innings. But because he had a bad day, or I should say, because India have six bowlers and he had a bad day, India were able to use the other bowlers, and none of the bowlers really finished their quota other than Varun, who I think every game that he plays, he's slotted into bowl 10. There's no way he's not bowling 10. I think even if he gives runs, and then Shami, of course, being your premium premier fast bowler, he has to bowl his 10 out, and he looked good today too with a 3-4.
No, no, Mr. ICC man himself, 10 overs, 3 wickets, and at an economy of under five. I think what more can you ask from Shami? Again, as you mentioned, that key wicket of Steve Smith, he looked great. I think he was poised for 100. But unfortunately, I think we just also learned that this was the last ODI innings for Steve Smith. He announced his retirement today. So I think, yep, he announced
I
his
missed
retirement
that.
from ODI innings. But no, I think that just his innings really encapsulated how he was as a player, a pillar for Australia. classic cricketing shots and really smart cricketing brain. I think it's a big loss for international cricket, but I think his innings against India was really just the way Steve Smith always plays, a smart innings and just a class of a player.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to Steve Smith. Did not know that he announced his retirement. Well, it is a big loss for cricket. He's as you said, a classical Test match player. Good to see him in the whites and in situations like this where he plays that anchor role throughout the innings. It's great to watch. So all the best to him. We're gonna see a lot more of him in Test matches, I'm sure, for another few years. But yeah, we saw good innings from Steve Smith in wonders. He wouldn't classify him as one of the greats, but definitely a good one day player.
Yeah, yeah. So I think Australia 264. I think it's the halfway mark. Toronto. How did you feel at that score? Did you think Australia was comfortable with that? Did you think that was enough for what they recall as scoreboard pressure for Team India in the semifinal?
I think Australia would be kicking themselves that they couldn't get to 280 plus at least, closer to that 300 mark, given where they were when Carey and Smith were batting. They were 198 for 436 overs in, 14. Even at a run of ball, that takes you to 280, 280 plus. So I think they would have been kicking themselves, but knowing Australia, they would have been also confident at being able to squeeze India, given the Australian way. But on the other side, I would say India would have been fairly confident getting into the run chase, having been restricting them to 264.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. I think it was 20 runs minimum short. As
Yeah.
we mentioned earlier, that Kerry run out definitely I think was that 20-ish runs. And these key moments really matter in a tournament, right? So I think those key moments were with India in the first inning. So yeah, 264 at the halfway mark, and in comes Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill for the chase.
Yeah, yeah. Good start by Rohit Sharma. And speaking of key moments, we saw again some unlike Australian fielding, and you had two drop catches of Rohit Sharma. And again, I said earlier, the momentum, it felt like the cricketing gods were in India, and that was another example of that. Because on any other day, Australia is catching those catches. Shout out to Cooper Connolly, not the greatest day. It was a tough day for him. He struggled with the bat, and then to have that drop catch. But he somewhat redeemed himself, and you could see the frustration that he let out when he caught Rohit out. But yeah, it was another good start by Rohit playing that typical quick fire cameo, get India off the blocks, and India needed that.
Yeah, yeah, and I know we say what a great start from Rohit, but when will that good start turn into a big innings? I think he's due for a good knock, and those 20 runs to 30 runs is what we expect from him now. But that's not of Rohit Sharma. He gets those 50 plus scores that he's gotten historically. But then again, it worked out for India's favor in overall. It is, at least from my perspective, a little disappointing on that front, especially if you're played 28 balls. You kind of settled it in my eyes, but good enough score. I think he didn't waste any balls, as you mentioned. Pretty good strike rate. Gill, unfortunate. Again dragging on to the stumps, but then comes Mr. Kohli for the chase.
Yeah, the king himself again, pressure situation, big opposition, redeems himself. Probably could have scored 100 if he didn't miss time that downfall that led to his downfall, that shot that led to his downfall. But a very calculated 84 again, the man of the chase. And he had some good able allies in once again Shreyas Iyer and Akshay Patel.
Yeah, no, I don't think we can not sing enough praises for both Shreyas Iyer and Axar Patel. Shreyas Iyer, India's premier number four batsman now. I think that partnership with Kohli was what they really needed at that time, and it's very reminiscent of that partnership they had against Pakistan. You needed to rotate strike. You needed to get those singles and doubles. You needed to really settle the nerves, especially when it's that sort of chase. 264. It's still less than 6 runs and over, so it is very doable. So I think they played exactly to what the plan would have been, take the game deep. And again, I think Shreyas would have been disappointed in not getting his half century, but I think he had done his job at number four. And as you mentioned, Akshar Patel, with the ball and now with the bat, I don't think he's a bowler. He's an all rounder now. Great performance from him. And I think, you can never sing enough praises for Akshar Patel. He's shown up with the bat every time you ask for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Both those knocks by Shreyas and Akshar were very important. Those partnerships with Kohli. And again, you saw Kohli playing that anchor role. A 98 ball 84, only 5 fours, but that's what the situation needed. It was still a tricky pitch. There was still something there for the bowlers. And it was interesting to see Australia playing with four spinners because Cooper Connolly is an all rounder. I wonder what happened to Matt. Perhaps he was injured.
He was injured. That's what they had said. Yeah.
Okay. And they played Tanvir Sangha as well, another leggy. They tried to play India's game, but you're playing with not so premier spinners, and so, like India were able to milk the bowlers in those middle overs, and that's where India I think won the game. Having said that, when Kohli did get out, there was still a chance for Australia to come back in. But then you had, can we call him Iceman KL Rahul, or is it Iceman Hardik Pandya? Either or, they both played cool innings, and that helped India get over the line.
Yeah, no, again, it's a real blessing for KL Rahul to come in so deep for Team India because, he can open the batting in test matches. He can probably open the batting in ODIs as well. He just fits anywhere and he's able to be so maneuverable for Team India. So again, very important knock from him, ever so reliable again. And as you mentioned, Pandya with his attitude, with his big sixes, I think you really needed
Three
him, and
biggies.
he's really yeah, exactly. I think one of them was 102-meter six. I think after he came off his bat, he didn't even look at the ball. He just looked straight down. He knew he was out of the park. And I think that's what you really needed. I think Pandya has really fit into sort of the finisher role where he's able to, get those big hits in, get that great cameo in. And that's exactly what India needed at that time. I think, it was around 30 runs for 30 balls left. And Pandya with a few quick sixes, a few quick boundaries is what really relieved the pressure and really allowed KL Rahul to really knock it around and really finish it off for Team India. So I think, as you mentioned at the beginning of the pod, great overall effort from Team India, and I think everyone pitched in for a great team win.
Yeah, yeah, it was a solid overall win. Not a perfect performance, but a good performance, good enough to take the W. And then India is in another final. This team has really been doing well in the last few ICC tournaments. We have another final now against either South Africa or New Zealand. And just as we record this, looking at the scorecard between that, New Zealand South Africa game, looks like New Zealand is ahead. They need two more wickets. South Africa needs 125 from 45 balls, which looks highly unlikely. So we're staring at an India versus New Zealand final. Again, I remember someone on the pod saying that was going to happen.
No, no, no. You got to give your flowers. Called by Tehran, and exactly how I think it's likely going to turn out. What are your quick impressions of that likely matchup in the final in Dubai? Because they've played earlier as well. India got the W there. That was also a very tricky game for Team India. But now most likely India versus New Zealand in the finals. What are your quick thoughts on that match?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very different game than what we saw. New Zealand will definitely learn from their mistakes. I feel if New Zealand bat first, it's going to be tricky for India because New Zealand just has the firepower to put up a target, and it is easier to bat on this Dubai wicket in the first innings. We saw it, like New Zealand put up 360 against South Africa, and that's no joke. I know you're playing in Pakistan, but that's an attack comprising of Test match level all greats like Cookies or Rabada. And you had Ravindra and Williamson both hit hundreds. I said it before, New Zealand bat deep, just as deep as India. And Glenn Phillips again played a 47 from 20-ish ball innings,
Yeah.
which got New Zealand to that 360. So if New Zealand bat first in the finals, they will have the advantage, actually.
Yeah, no, exactly that. And I think, as you mentioned, the New Zealand batters are incredible. And obviously, after this match, they'll be in good form as well. I think the matchup to look out for, as in the previous New Zealand versus India match, was India's spinners against the New Zealand batters. If India's spinners are able to get the better hand of
Yes.
the New Zealand batters, then I think, definitely confidence and the momentum is going to go to Team India. But if India's spinners are off, or if New Zealand is able to neutralize India's spinners, then it could be, very, very good match for New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a hell of a game. So, what is your Sloxy prediction for the final?
I think it's due time. I think Captain Rohit Sharma is going to come in with a century. I think it's due, and I think he's going to hit big. I think it's going to be 100 for him, and I think it's going to be a W for Team India.
Okay, okay. All right. So for me, again, I'm going with the team and what the outcome of the match is going to be. So I would say that India's probably going to lose the toss again.
Okay.
And I know you dropped your mouth thinking I said something. India's gonna lose the toss, and New Zealand's gonna bat first. You're gonna make 280 plus, probably a 280, 285 score, and probably gonna see 100 from not Williamson or Rachin. It might be one of the openers that make 100. I feel, and they'll be able to maneuver through the spinners in the middle, make 280, 285. But I do feel India will chase it down. Again, given the batting depth, given the form that everyone's in, I like your shot of Rohit making a big score. I think we'll see a big, at least a 50 plus score from Rohit. So a lot of predictions from me, but that's what it is.
No, beautiful predictions, and I think only time will tell. Sun is going to be an incredible match, very anticipated. Most likely, as you mentioned, New Zealand versus India, and I think all eyes in Dubai for the final of the Champions Trophy.
Yeah, all eyes on Dubai for Sunday. We can't wait to bring that to you after the game. Until then, that's it for the day's play. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That stops.